His Divine Grace, Labai Janardana, Swami Jai Challa Vishnupat Paramahamsa Parivrajacari Asto Tarasatsi Sriman. His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Jai Shri Rup Shri Sanatana Bhattaraguna Sutiva Gopal Bhattarasthaguna Satya Swami Story Ki Jai. Ācharya Sila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Kṛṣna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Radha Shivas Adhikor Ki Jai. Shri Radha Kṛṣna Shama Kundara Kumari Govinda Ki Jai. Shri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Ki Jai. Mathura Ki Jai. Sinapati Mayapur Ki Jai. Gangamai Ki Jai. Vimalmai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Sankirtan Yajna Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Sasana Shishibhushan Ki Jai. Save Bhakti Ki Jai. Dai Go Shitana Purnande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sudhagami Paschachadi Satani Om Jnana-timirandasya Jnana-salakaya Chakshurumritam Yena Tasmai Shri-gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Swapadam Kitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta-pada-kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Sarvabhutam Parijana Sahitam Kṛṣna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Kṛṣna Patham Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakambikaṁscha. He Kṛṣna Karuna Sindhu Dīnabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurāṅgi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrisabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari. Vanchakalpatarobhyascha Kṛpāsindhubhya eva ca Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavabhyo Namaha. Jai Shri Kṛṣna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from the Bhagavad-gītā as it is, chapter 7. Today we start a new verse. First verse of the 7th chapter, knowledge of the absolute truth, or knowledge of the absolute. This is like the Bhagavad-gītā. There are 18 chapters. And the first 6 chapters is about karma yoga. Then the next 6 chapters is about devotional service. And then the last 6 chapters is about jnana yoga. Prabhupada says that the middle 6 chapters within the 18 chapters is like very confidential. It's like a sandwich. You know, the first, the top and the bottom of the sandwich is not as good. It's good also, because it will not be called a sandwich if there is no bread in the bottom and bread in the top. But the most important is what's the element inside. That is, you can always ask, so what's inside? śrī-bhagavān uvāca mayy āsakta-manāḥ pārtha yogaṁ yuñjan mad-āśrayaḥ asaṁśayam samagram yathā jñāsyasi śrṇu. Mataji, śrī-bhagavān uvāca mayy āsakta-manāḥ pārtha yogaṁ yuñjan mad-āśrayaḥ asaṁśayam samagram yathā jñāsyasi śrṇu. śrī-bhagavān uvāca śrī-bhagavān uvāca The Supreme Lord said, mayy, to me, āsakta-manāḥ, mind attached, pārtha, O son of Pṛthā, yogam, self-realization, yuñjan, practicing, mad-āśrayaḥ, in consciousness of me, Kṛṣna consciousness, asaṁśayam, without doubt, samagram, completely, mam, me, yathā, how, jñāsyasi, you can know, that, śṛṇu, try to hear. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami śrī-bhagavān. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pṛthā, how by practicing yoga in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Please repeat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, now hear, O son of Pṛthā, how by practicing yoga, in full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. Purport. In this 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, the nature of Kṛṣna consciousness is fully described. Kṛṣna is in full in all opulences, and how he manifests such opulences is described herein. Also, 4 kinds of fortunate people who become attached to Kṛṣna, and 4 kinds of unfortunate people who never did to Kṛṣna are described in this chapter. In the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad-gītā, the living entity has been described as non-material spirit soul, capable of elevating himself to self-realization by different types of yogas. At the end of the 6th chapter, it has been clearly stated that the steady concentration of the mind upon Kṛṣna, or in other words, Kṛṣna consciousness, is the highest form of all yoga. By concentrating one's mind upon Kṛṣna, one is able to know the absolute truth completely, but not otherwise. Impersonal Brahma-jyoti or localized Paramatma realization is not perfect knowledge of the absolute truth, because it is partial. Full and scientific knowledge is Kṛṣna, and everything is revealed to the person in Kṛṣna consciousness. In complete Kṛṣna consciousness, one knows that Kṛṣna is ultimate knowledge beyond any doubts. Different types of yogas are only stepping stones on the path of Kṛṣna consciousness. One who takes directly to Kṛṣna consciousness automatically knows about Brahma-jyoti and Paramatma in full. By practice of Kṛṣna consciousness yoga, one can know everything in full, namely the absolute truth, the living entities, the material nature, and their manifestations with paraphernalia. So one should therefore begin yoga practice as described in the last verse of the 6th chapter. Concentration of the mind upon Kṛṣna, the Supreme, is made possible by prescribed devotional service in 9 different forms, of which Shravanam is the first and most important. The Lord therefore says to Arjuna, touch śṛṇu, or hear from me. No one can be a greater authority than Kṛṣna, and therefore, by hearing from him, one receives the greatest opportunity to become a perfectly Kṛṣna-conscious person. One has therefore to learn from Kṛṣna directly, or from a pure devotee of Kṛṣna, and not from a non-devotee upstarts popped up with academic education. In the śrī-bhagavān, this process of understanding Kṛṣna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, is described in the second chapter of the first canto as follows. Shimbatam Shakata Kṛṣna Punyashravana Kirtana Vidyantasto hi abhadrani vijunoti shuri-satam Nasta praeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati utama shloke bhakti bhavati naistiti Udarajastamo bhava kamanobhadyaschaya Cheta etayana vidham sitam satve asindati Evam pasana manaso bhagavat bhakti yogata Bhagavat tattva vidyanam mukta sanghasya jayate Vidyate grante schidyanti sarva samsaya Shiyanti jasya karmani jista eva manishvare. Quote, to hear about Kṛṣna from Vedic literatures or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad-gītā is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Lord Kṛṣna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him. In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge. As he hears more about Kṛṣna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees, he becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes free from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lust and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, because enlivened by devotional service and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asaṁśayam, samagram, understanding of the Supreme Absolute Personality of Godhead. Śrīmad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, Texts 17 to 21. Therefore, only by hearing from Kṛṣna or from his devotee in Kṛṣna consciousness, one can understand the science of Kṛṣna. Jai. Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. śrī-bhagavān uvāca maya āsakta-manāḥ pārtha yogam yuñjan mad-āśrayaḥ asaṁśayam samagram yathā jñāsyasi śrṇu. It's a very important verse. Actually, all the verses in Bhagavad-gītā is very important. This subject matter is not so easy to understand for those who are non-devotees. Even though it is the ABC or the preliminary study about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Bhagavad-gītā means understanding Kṛṣna, Kṛṣna Tattva, the truth about Lord Kṛṣna. By following in the footsteps of Arjuna, being taught by Lord Kṛṣna Hopefully, someday in this lifetime also, we'll be able to understand what is the Bhagavad-gītā. Even though the Bhagavad-gītā was spoken by the Supreme Lord 5,000 years ago, it is eternally true. Even before that, millions of years ago, he spoke to the sun god, BG-7, the same knowledge. And even today, we're still talking and describing and glorifying the Bhagavad-gītā until the end of Kali Yuga, or at least till the next 10,000 years, the Bhagavad-gītā will be still being described, read, and glorified. So the Bhagavad-gītā is an eternal truth about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this chapter specifically spoke about how we can understand this knowledge of the Supreme Absolute Truth from the Supreme Lord Himself or His pure representatives through hearing. Right now, we see Kṛṣna in His Archa-vigraha form, or we hear His holy name chanting, none different, the Archa-vigraha, and also the holy name, none different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, but we don't have full realization. We can see the deities every day, but how many of us really have full realization that Kṛṣna or Śyāma Sundar or Krishna Balaram, Gaur-Nitai, they're none different than the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. Mostly the neophytes will just ask for many wishes to be fulfilled, but not really asking Kṛṣna for service or how can I increase my love towards you. Same, we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day, but how many are relishing the holy name? Are we having the taste in the chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, or are we forcing ourselves to chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra because this is the order of the spiritual master? This is the order of Srila Prabhupada. But according to the Shastra, the holy name also is none different than the Supreme Lord. Everything is in the holy name of the Supreme Lord. The whole spiritual world is in the holy name of the Supreme Lord. So here the Supreme Lord is saying that to Pṛthā, O son of Pṛthā, that means Pārtha, Arjuna, that to be fully conscious of Him by practicing yoga. With the mind attached to Him, there is a verse especially I was reading here. We have to know fully and scientifically, according to the Shastra. Scientifically because it is tried and proven. We don't have to make a test. We just have to apply it to ourselves. It's like when we went to school in physics or in biology. Some experiments are there. The teacher, he doesn't have to know. He doesn't have to do the same experiment. He knows the conclusion. For the students, they have to follow the procedures. And if they do it properly and correctly, they will come to the same conclusion as been established from before. So similarly, if we follow the instructions coming from the Bhagavad-gītā, śrī-bhagavān, coming from the spiritual master, coming from the sadhus or the holy men, then ultimately we can come to the conclusion of knowing the Supreme Absolute Truth. Not just Brahman, or the effulgence of the Supreme Lord, or Paramatma, the localized aspect of the Supreme Lord, being situated in everyone's heart, in every nook and corner of the creation. He can be realized ultimately as a person, but not just as a person, but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who everyone has a relationship. Everyone. He is the only person that has a relationship with each and everyone, a unique individual relationship. So ultimately, when we understand Kṛṣna as a person, we'll be able to understand also who we are and what is our relationship with Him. But it starts with dasya, starts with serving. And this serving process is called bhakti yoga. Using our senses, using our mind, using our intelligence, using our very self, our body, the mind, speech, and so on, in order to understand Kṛṣna. And there are 9 processes in bhakti yoga, started with śravanam. Śravanam kirtanam Vishnu smaranam. Prabhupada says, I am good in hearing and therefore I am good in speaking, and therefore when you're good in hearing, because we don't see Kṛṣna, really, we can only see Kṛṣna right now through hearing. We see Kṛṣna in the temple room, but we don't have full realization. But by hearing from the right source, the Bhagavad-gītā, because Bhagavad-gītā, Harikatha means 2. Words spoken by the Supreme Lord, or those truth or knowledge spoken about the Supreme Lord by His devotees. So this Bhagavad-gītā is directly spoken by the Supreme Lord. And without a doubt, we will come to the conclusion that Kṛṣna is God. A neophyte, he doesn't have that firm faith that Kṛṣna is God. Maybe Kṛṣna is God, maybe not. Not 100% sure. Therefore, we have to be convinced. We have to have this firm faith that Kṛṣna is the ultimate knowledge and realization. That's why we study Bhagavad-gītā every day. That is our consciousness, original consciousness, Kṛṣna consciousness. One may ask, why do we have to listen to Bhagavad-gītā? Why do we have to hear again and again Bhagavad-gītā or śrī-bhagavān in the morning and Bhagavad-gītā in the evening? For us to be convinced that one day, yes, Kṛṣna is God. In the beginning, we need this faith, this what you call śraddha. Ado śraddha, tato sadhu sangha, tato bhajana kriya. Then later on, there's what you call nistha. Firm faith. In that firm faith, no one can sway you. No one can unconvince you. You are fully fixed up. Right now, we don't know whether this process works or not. But we have a little bit of faith. That's why we're doing it again and again and again. So, Kṛṣna consciousness is the process. This bhakti yoga will ultimately reveal to us full knowledge. We'll be able to have our mind fully attached to Kṛṣna. Sometimes devotee says, Maharaj, how is it that sometimes I go up and down? I go up and down. Sometimes I'm in maya. No. Sometimes we're in Kṛṣna, mostly in maya. Yes or no? If you are in the mostly Kṛṣna consciousness, that means that is the Madhyam platform. Mostly we're still in the Kanista, neophyte platform. But we have a little bit of faith. So we have to keep going. We have to keep going that ultimately the mind will become fully attached towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is from the 6th chapter, text 47. Yoginam. That is the last verse, isn't it? Yoginam apisarvesam matkatenam taratmana saramam bhajate. Thinks of Kṛṣna within himself always. with great faith and always abides in Him, renders transcendental loving service unto Kṛṣna. He is the most intimately united with Kṛṣna in yoga, and He is the highest of all. That is our goal. That is our goal. To be always in Kṛṣna consciousness. So the process is like this. We have to concentrate our mind. And to concentrate the mind, we have to follow this process of Bhakti Yoga. And the first and most essential is hearing. Like Prabhupada says in the Bhagavad-gītā, in the beginning, just try to accept Kṛṣna is God. We don't have any idea Kṛṣna is God, but we know Kṛṣna is attractive. He's not an ordinary person, but we don't have that full realization. But we've heard, oh, we have to serve Kṛṣna by hearing. By hearing from the right source. So yes, we should hear only from Kṛṣna or from His pure devotees. In Vrindavan, there are many professional reciters. Some are genuine, but there are many professional reciters. They know how to glorify or describe the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Some of them are even professionally, they sing very nicely, but do they have real love for Kṛṣna? Prabhupada was once asked, how do you know who is Kṛṣna conscious person? Prabhupada says, one who is addicted to Kṛṣna, he is Kṛṣna conscious. One who only wants to serve and please Kṛṣna or His pure devotees. So some of them, those who are professional reciters of Harikatha or Bhagavad-gītā, they may not have genuine love for the Supreme Lord. They may have love for money and prestige and adoration, but they don't have real love to please Lord Kṛṣna by pleasing His devotees. It is only for like enjoyment. Only when you're hearing, you're enjoying, but it doesn't have full effect to the heart. When a pure devotee speaks, it touches your heart. It melts your heart. You want to follow the instructions from the Bhagavad-gītā, not just enjoying the śrī-bhagavān. Of the topmost process in hearing, he says, is hearing śrī-bhagavān and Bhagavad-gītā. There's no difference, of course, but especially śrī-bhagavān. So, the process is to concentrate the mind, because it says here, touch śṛṇu. Try to hear. How you can know me in full, without any doubt, by trying to hear. Not just hearing here and coming out from there. Coming here and absorb it into your heart, into our heart. And when we absorb it, then ultimately we will also speak. And when we speak, it is also be Kṛṣna conscious. So, the process of understanding Kṛṣna is by hearing. And yes, there is a series of verses here from the first canto, chapter 2, text 17 to 21, mentions here. Hearing about Kṛṣna from himself, from the Bhagavad-gītā, or his pure devotees. Sometimes we don't hear directly from Kṛṣna, but by having heard from his devotees, who they can have deeper understanding of Kṛṣna consciousness, they reveal to us more than what we are reading. They reveal to us more the deeper meaning of what we've read. It's like Prabhupada when he gives the purports. And as Prabhupada says, these are my spiritual ecstasies. Sometimes the acharyas will not give any purport, but then Prabhupada will also give a little bit of his understanding to clarify or to properly elaborate the understanding of the subject matter. So it says here, by such hearing, Kṛṣna in the heart acts as best wishing friend. What's that? Different kinds of friend. Bandhu, surit, there's another one. A surit is very, very dear friend, as the Paramatma. He purifies our heart by giving us also the knowledge by which we can come to Him. Tesam satatang yuktanam vajatam priti purvakam dadhami buddhi yogam tam yenamam upayantite. For those who are always conversing and talking about Kṛṣna, He, as the Super Soul, gives us the intelligence by which we can come to Him, by purifying our heart. We develop natural taste for transcendental, loving, devotional service. The more we hear, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, one's advancement in Krishna consciousness can be known by how much we are attached in hearing about Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and pastimes. Not hearing mundane subject matter, not hearing about what's going on in the world. Of course, we need to know what's going on in the world also, but we don't have to spend hours and hours like people. They spend hours in newspapers. They will read the newspapers from the beginning to the end, to the classified ads, to the everything, to the comics, to everything. I read also what's going on, but I don't spend so much time. Have a glimpse or go through quick as possible so that we know what's going on in the world. We cannot be just like, oh no, I only read Bhagavad-gītā and śrī-bhagavān. I don't need to know what's going on out there. We have to know a little bit. And by more hearing, one becomes fixed in devotional service. The more we hear, the more we become free from the modes of passion and ignorance. You have to come at least in the platform of goodness, Suddha Sattva. The more we hear, the more we become free from the modes of passion and ignorance. One who's in the mode of goodness, that means he likes to hear more and more about the Supreme Lord. Our material lust and avarice are diminished. Now, material lust is not necessarily mean that attraction towards the opposite sex. It is also attraction for material things. Becoming greedy for material things which not necessarily we need or we already have, but we want more and more and more. That's what it called lust. And avarice means ignorance. One becomes steady in pure goodness. One becomes enlivened by devotional service, and he understands the science of God perfectly. The hard knot of material affection is severe. The more we hear, because it says knowledge is like a sword that cuts our material attachment. That's why it says that sadhus are heavy. Or guru means heavy. Not heavy in weight. Heavy means that it cuts our material attachments. When you hear the real sadhu, you will really appreciate him because you can tell that the material attachments become less and less and less. The more you hear, the more you become purified, and the more our attachments towards material things diminish, and our attraction or affection towards the Supreme Lord increases. This is the result from hearing from Kṛṣna or the right source. Hard knot. Oh, hard knot. If something is tied very hard, it takes time to untie it. You have that experience? Sometimes my sika will get tied in the wrong way, and I cut it a few times. Because, especially when it is wet, you try to untie it, but you untie it in the wrong way. It gets caught up, you will not be able to untie it. The only solution is you have to cut a little bit wherever the tie or the knot is. So our heart is a hard knot towards the material attraction since time immemorial. Since time immemorial. But by hearing from the right source properly, then this hard knot will become loosened, and they the one who untie us. As Prabhupada, it says in the Bhagavad-gītā also, one whose hands are tied up, you cannot untie yourself. You need someone whose hands are untied to untie it. So liberated souls or pure devotees of the Supreme Lord, sadhus, holy men, the scriptures can untie our hands. That means they can untie our material attachments. We'll be able to realize Kṛṣna. One comes to the stage of asaṁśayam, samagram. The words are here. Asaṁśayam, samagram. Without doubt, completely without any doubt, we will be able to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this, especially this chapter, will be able to understand the absolute truth, and will be able to understand, it says in the description, those who are not surrendering to the Supreme Lord, and those who are surrendering unto the Supreme Lord, and ultimately who are eligible to become devotees of the Supreme Lord. So in conclusion, the only way to understand the science of Kṛṣna consciousness is by hearing. Oh, he heard me. I'm sure you heard me also. Only through hearing. Aural, this is what we call aural reception. Just imagine, how is it that the sages of Mayy there are thousands and thousands of them. How many of them? Huh? I can't remember now, but there's quite a lot of them. When Sukadeva Goswami was narrating the śrī-bhagavān to King Parikshit, there are thousands of them. Now we need a microphone and a sound system to hear. Sometimes it's very difficult also to hear. How did it transfer? Because the sound vibration travels actually in the entire globe, in the entire planet. If we chant purely, if we describe the glories of the Lord, His name, fame, form, qualities, and pastimes purely, also this sound vibration, not just within this room, it travels all over the world. But the whole world is polluted also. There are many unwanted sound vibration, noise, pollution that's going on all over the world also. So we have to go on top of that. So the more they're hearing and chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, the narrations of the Bhagavad-gītā and Śrī-bhagavān, then the more we will be overpowering those unwanted noise or sound vibration. Hare Krishna. So we stop here. Is there any points, any questions on this subject? Many things we're not able to describe more, but we focus specifically into this. Any questions or reflections?
About this hearing, and then there's, like you said, hearing.
Hearing?
Where we're hearing, but many times, especially in the beginning, it's like going in and then oh, what did you hear?
Yeah.
Well, I can't remember anything.
I
So
understand.
what about the quality?
I understand your question. See, this process, we don't have an absolute understanding. But this is, as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, this is cleansing. Cleansing process. Like our heart is full of anarthas. Our heart is so dirty. If we open our heart, not heart surgery or heart operation, but if we can see each other's heart in a spiritual platform, it's really dirty there, inside. There's still so many anarthas, unwanted desires. So the more we hear, we may not remember, but it's cleansing. It's like Prabhupada was giving class in somewhere in South India, maybe Hyderabad, and one of his disciples was there. In the beginning, because Prabhupada was speaking in Hindi, only few of his disciples are English speaking, so maybe in Hyderabad. So he was speaking in Hindi, and the next day, when he gave the lecture, the devotee did not come. So he asked, why you did not come to the class? Prabhupada, it's in Hindi language, I don't understand. Prabhupada says, no, even if you don't understand, it has that purifying effect. The baby is in the womb of the mother. Prahlad Maharaj. Narad Muni was speaking the Bhagavad-gītā. What a child can know. But his consciousness is already there. And because the purity, the more we heard it from the pure devotees, or those who are following the process, like we are still in the process. The more we follow the process, we're like, and just repeat what we've heard, there's a purifying effect in there. We may not see it, but we can feel it though. Up to a certain extent. Now, remembering is different because the more you hear, the more you chant, then you will remember someday. What is that? Savanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam. That is the third stage. So we just keep repeating what we've heard, and then we remember after some time. We may not see the purification going on, but definitely you're feeling good. You're feeling lighter. Huh? So the next day, he sat in the class in Hindi again, and he may not know what's going on. But Prabhupada is speaking, so it has pure. The purity is there, and it cleanses the heart. Anything else? Yes? Is there Mike?
Thank you, Maharaj. It's a wonderful class. Maharaj, mine's a very simple question. Could you please tell me the difference between hearing and listening?
Listening and hearing. Okay, hearing means acting upon it. When you heard some good instructions, you act upon that good instruction. You follow it. Listening means for entertainment, like listen casually, but it still has effect. You may not follow the instruction from what you've heard because you're only listening. You don't take it seriously. You take it for granted. Okay, oh, I have to be in the class. Okay, I just have to be in the class. But your mind is somewhere else. You may be hearing, but you're not fully concentrated and you don't want to do anything from what you've heard. So you're only listening. When you hear, you are listening. At the same time, you want to act upon what you've heard. Listening doesn't mean, oh, you've heard. Because if you heard, there are three processes of acquiring knowledge, it says here. Ascending process, through faith, and descending process. This is descending process coming from Kṛṣna, coming from Guru Parampara. We hear from Kṛṣna. Okay, there is the ascending process, meaning like, oh, to see is to believe. The scientists, they work at that level. To see is to believe. Even though, that's why they don't believe in God. Because they don't see in God. They don't see God. But they know there's a mind. They don't see mind, but they talk about psychology. Right? So how is that? We may not see God, but we can feel, and the Shastra says, both ways. So when we hear, we act upon it, and we get purified by doing so. Listening means, it's okay. I'm just passing my time here. It will not have an effect. 100% effect. Okay? Anything else?
Kṛṣṇa Maharaj.
Hello.
Yes. Just a realization. I've seen the two last three times in the temple Bhagavatam class. There was a person who is dead. I can't hear.
You cannot hear?
Yeah, but he was sitting in the class.
You were sitting in the class, but you cannot hear?
No, I mean there was a person who has hearing problem.
Oh, he has
Can't
hearing
hear.
problem?
He's dead, right? But he was sitting in the class.
Yes. How is it purifying him? It's very subtle. It's very subtle. The heart is the one who's getting... The heart that you have is not the heart. The real heart that's pumping blood. Huh? That's not the heart that has love of Kṛṣna. It's in the dormant stage. It's different. It's very subtle. You understand? Okay, the heart that we have, sometimes you can have like a heart transplant. So that means Kṛṣna transfer. No. Kṛṣna is still there. It's subtle. So one may not hear. One can be blind. It's like in Moy Kutir, the painter of the Radha Kṛṣna with peacock attire. The one who painted that was blind. And you're not allowed to take photo. You can take photo with your mind and with your heart. But he clearly painted Kṛṣna and Radharani as if, that's it. Personally present. So how did he paint that? He is blind. Because he can see from his heart, which is not the one that's pumping the blood. Okay, so even if one cannot speak, and one cannot hear and see, deaf, dumb, and blind, how can he get purified? Sometimes, in Italy, they did this, the blind, they can read, what do you call that? Braille, they can read. They can read Kṛṣna, they can read Radharani, they can read Vrindavan. So how is it being transferred now? They're deaf, they're blind. By feeling, it's transferring to the heart again. This is the mystery here. Krishna consciousness can be attained by anybody. There is no limitations that one can have. One can have all the defects. Physically, mentally, everything, speech, whatever. And one can be Krishna conscious. Provided you have śrādha. It starts with śrādha, with faith. And where do you get the faith from? Sadhu Sangha. I mean, he's deaf and blind and cannot talk, but if he's with the devotees, he'll still be happy. If he is with the materialist, he will not have the same emotions of happiness, that kind of happiness. Because again, it is subtle. It is subtle. Okay? Anything else? So we stop here. I hope you learned something today. Srila Prabhupada Ki. Hearing about Kṛṣna and the right source and from Kṛṣna himself Ki Jai. Taigaur Shikana Pramanande Hari Hari Om Tat Sat.